like what you guys are doing with this presentation that you have, Smoke Break, I think it's awesome because it's a new wineskin. Mm-hmm. You know, it's new wine, but it's also a new wineskin. And it frees people like me who've hidden behind the collar, who've hidden behind the stained glass windows, to be a man. You know, not necessarily a man of sorrows, not necessarily a man of God, just a man.
Right.
You know? We watch football. We don't watch football as men of God. We watch football as men. Mm-hmm. You feel me?
Yeah.
And the reality is, I love it, man. This is what God gave me for this season. And this is one reason why I began to reach out through Facebook and all social media, which I stayed away from like the plague. From the standpoint, I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want people that personable having that much access to me. And I have to admit, it does have its challenges even now. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure how long I can do it on this level because it's becoming very huge. And but I never want to totally not do it like this, because what I've learned is that it's one thing to be a bishop over the people, but it's another thing to be a bishop among the people. Mm. And bishop, by definition, overseer, you're over. Mm-hmm. You have to be up high in order to see far and wide. So you can't be just common. You have to be over. You can't really buddy with people. You can be their friends, but you can't really buddy with them. But there's a flip side to it. Shepherds don't wear three-piece suits, and they smell like sheep. Mm-hmm. They walk where they walk, they live where they live. Mm-hmm. And I think because of what I went through, and I went through marital difficulties that ultimately ended in divorce 6 years ago. That was a painful period, and still is something I'm recovering from. Although it's over, it's under the blood, and, you know, and there's a lot I could say about it, but I'll just say it was a difficult time. Cost me in every way, shape, or form. So, having gone through that, I now know that there's a difference between going through something and growing through it. And a lot of people in the congregation, they go through things, but they don't grow through it. So being among them, I can help them grow through it.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when a guy comes in and he's having a marital problem, I no longer dismiss that, well, you know, we're going to pray for you. And I know that guy's going to be hurting at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can't even tell you how many people on Facebook I've helped who knew my struggle, what I went through, and have reached out to me, and I've seen their marriages restored, because that's the ultimate goal. But if that marriage is not restored, you know, I always say if it's better to go to heaven with one arm than to go to hell with both of them.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to heaven having been married and then divorced than to go to hell married.
Yeah.
And not rationalizing, but my point is, if it happens to you, it happens. What do? You stop living? No, you don't stop living. I think some people think you should stop living.
Yeah, they do.
But thank God I've run into more, you know, being here in the city, I've noticed how nice the people are. Guess what? They were nice years ago when I came. But I wasn't that nice.
You didn't notice.
So I was so busy with the next assignment, I didn't notice they were nice. And so I've only been here for less than a day, and I'm thinking to myself, everybody's nice. You know, and it's a revelation for me.
Well, and it's good to live in the moment, to recognize that what we have is right here, right now. You know, past is past, the future is going to be there, but we have right now, right here. This is it. This is what's going on. And to focus your attention on that, then, you know, there's all kinds of things around you that you can benefit from.
And what you only have right now. You don't have the future. Because when you get there, it's right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let me say
the past happened in a right now moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, you know, Thoreau, who's one of my favorite authors, spent his last years near a pond writing. And that's what I want to do. That's why I resigned from the pastorate as of a couple of weeks from now. I won't be in the pastorate anymore. I'm going to raise up churches, put people in them. And, you know, Ed Cole, one of my great teachers in life, said one time, he said, the man that knows how will always have a job, but the man that knows why will always be the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if you notice most managers of champions, like Angelo Dundee, he was a manager of Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, never was a champion. And Muhammad was a black Muslim. and you got a white manager. What did he know? Why didn't he have a black one, Muhammad? Because he knew that this man was never a champion, but he could produce one.
Right.
And honestly, a lot of us may never be the champion ourselves, but we can produce one.
Wow.
And that's what I want to say. I may never have the largest church. I may not have the grace for a large church. I may be too tight, too tough, too long. I may be too much of anything for a large church. I don't think, I don't have less of a ministry, but I know what I will have. I have a large ministry because the people that I have mentored and fathered.
Yeah.
You follow me?
That's moving beyond yourself.
And that's what it's all about. Am I right?
You are right. And, it's what you're doing with Facebook is really pioneering, I think, in a lot of ways. And, the social landscape of this world has changed so drastically. I can remember back in the day where something would happen halfway across the world. It'd take a couple of days to find out about it.
Sure.
And it would take time for the word to get out and everything. Now everything is instant.
Yeah.
Everything is automatic. And I think because of, now with what you're doing with Facebook is you've got a global audience. You've got a global church. And it's there, and it's always there. And people can go to it at any time. They can look through that history, and they can, keep going and keep going and keep going. And I mean, it's an it really is pretty incredible that you're able to take this, that you're going beyond yourself, that you're going global with your ministry, and you're not afraid to lose anything. And when an individual isn't afraid to lose anything, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
And in a good way. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we were talking about earlier.
It
really doesn't matter with me now.
Yeah.
That's right. And but here's the thing, you got to keep that.
Yeah, that's it.
You got to keep that. That's something worth fighting for, because it'd be easy for me to slip back into some old mindsets and some old ways and some and I'm telling you, but I've fought so hard. God has fought really hard in my life to help make me who I am today, and I've got a long way to go. It's kind of like the older you get, the more you realize you don't know nothing. I'm telling you, it's the stripping away. Sometimes we talk about building up and building up and building up and building up. Well, sometimes the most important thing isn't building up; it's stripping away.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes God isn't about the building up; He's about the stripping away, because He wants to get you down to that basic level to where it's you and Him. And that's something that I'm reminded. For some reason, this hits me every time. My mom grew up Catholic, so communion is very important.
Right.
And I grew up in the Episcopal Church. Communion, very, very important for me.
Sure.
And when I go up and take communion, there's something about while I'm taking communion, it's like, it's just you and me, God.
Right.
It's just you and me. Everything else is just gone. It's like everything disappears, and I'm totally focused, and it's just me and God. And it's like Jesus is just going, it's always just going to be you and me, buddy. Everything else is not. Everything else is just so temporal, and just it means really nothing. This is what's important, just you and me. And so that stripping away, which it happens through tragedy and through pain, and as we've all experienced in life. But that's why I'm like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to. I love this journey now, and having nothing to lose.
You and I have been talking, and I tell you, a lot of things you've said just resonate with me, because I know what you're talking about, having that pain. Man, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But by the same token, I give God glory, man, because He trusted me with tragedy. And that's why I am a phenom, okay? Because I am a walking, resurrected man. I post a picture on Facebook, and they criticize the fact, well, I got so many pictures. I said, because for 9 years I didn't post one. So allow me a month to celebrate that I'm no longer dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you say I'm dead, this is what a dead man looks like. And I am dead. I'm dead to me. I don't care what you think. You can talk about me. You can't take my church. You can't take my ministry. You can't take my marriage. You can't take anything. I lost a lot of things. But I'm back now. But I'm back now loving, man. And I like me better.
You were saying that you might not always have you might not ever have the biggest church. And the thing that had occurred to me was that when you look at the biggest churches in America, they are big, but they don't challenge anybody.
Right.
They appeal to a broad audience. And your ministry and people who go to hear you, it's work. It's not just work for you, it's work for them. So that's never going to draw the masses. I mean, the masses in large, where 20,000 people are coming every single Sunday and Wednesday to come hear you. But, I think I would rather touch 1,000 that are really doing something and get it than 20,000 who are just...
Sure, I feel the same way.
They're just floating in and floating right back out. And lives aren't really changed. One of the things that used to drive me nuts, traveling, all over the country with Bishop Pearson, going to the same churches every year. You'd see the same people come to the same altar calls over the same thing, and you think, my God, does nobody ever get it? Does nobody ever really listen? Because that's to me is where your life has changed. Not just the anointing touches you, but when you grasp hold of what you're hearing and it changes your thinking, then your life has changed. And it just would drive me nuts to see that, by and large, Bishop Blake said to Bishop Jakes years ago, he said, by and large, people never really change.
Yeah.
I thought, God, what a horrible testimony for preachers who have been in ministry for 30 and 40 years to say, you know what, people don't really change.
So where do you think that's coming from? From him? I mean, where do you think? Because he had this life experience.
Right.
What would cause him to have that perspective?
I think 30, 40 years of ministering to the same people every week and not seeing the same stuff.
Well, I have 29 years experience pastoring, and I would say that that's a relative statement.
I would agree.
I think that people do change. I've changed. I don't think you change in your humanity, and you still bleed.
Yeah.
You still cried. You still laugh. What made you laugh when you were younger made you modified, but a joke is a joke. I mean, in your core, you don't change. If you like women, you still like them. If you like men, you still like them. If you like dogs, you still like them. For the most part, you don't like what you like. But what changes is the way you respond to your environment. That really does change. Like things that used to move you don't move you.
Right.
Things that used to worry you don't worry you. So I think it's a relative statement, not to be arguing semantics, but I used to fuss a lot in my preaching, but I didn't define it as fussing. Just those who heard it defined it as fussing. And it came across as a person that was never quite pleased. And they have their own ways of describing that, whether it be he's a perfectionist or he's, choleric in his temperament, whatever they,
Right.
But what God showed me was that it was how I was raised. I was raised by fussers. My mother fussed, my grandmother fussed, my grandfather fussed, and I fussed. And the way you know you're fussing is because you won't put it on TV. You edit it.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So if you want to edit it so the public at large won't hear it, what do you think about those who are captive? They got to hear it. They can't even go.
Yeah.
Because you might fuss at them for leaving early.
The fact that you said it was a relative statement, I think goes right back to you challenge people. And if people aren't challenged, they're not challenged to change. So you would see change in people in your ministry where others might not.
I asked Miles Monroe that question concerning change and challenge years ago, 20 years ago, and it was at AZUSA. I asked him, I said, I noticed a lot of people's ministries challenge people. Other people's ministries charge people. But your ministry tends to change people. And I said to him, what would you define as the determining factor of your ministry versus a lot of other ministries? And his answer was really simple, to the point. He said, I teach principles, not just tell stories. So I think a lot of times what we have heard in the church is a story, and everybody has a different way of telling it. Update the story, freshen the story, use your sanctified imagination to tell the story, use your rhetoric to tell the story. It's the same story.
Yeah.
The story does not change people. What changes people are the principles contained in the story.